Hi everyone, this is Noah with Light Exposing Darkness, and today I thought I'd share my testimony with you guys. I'm titling this video, From the Bar Life to the Pew Life. If you're new to my channel, please subscribe for more Christian content, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss a thing. I try to upload every Friday and live stream every Thursday. I grew up in a small town in central Illinois, and I'm the youngest of 3 kids. I was raised as a Methodist. I grew up in a lower to middle class family. When I was a child, my relationship with my dad was good. When I was 8 years old, I was diagnosed with cancer. I remember when I was going through my radiation treatments, I would have this hat where I would put pins in after my radiation treatment. And I remember my grandfather on my mom's side of the family would pick me up to take me back to school after my radiation treatments. On my way back to school, my grandpa and I would usually get lunch together. My relationship with God and my dad when I was going through my radiation treatments and after them was good until I reached my teen years. So when I was a little kid, I used to listen to Christian music / pop, and when I was getting into my teen years, I was starting to listening to rock, and more secular rock than Christian rock. Some of the bands I used to listen to are Five Finger Death Punch, Sick Puppies, Pop Evil, Rob Zombie, Marilyn Manson, and Shinedown, just to name a few. I remember in my teen years, I started watching TV shows that I could not watch when I was a kid, and playing video games I could not play when I was a kid. During my early teen years, my relationship with my dad and God started to fade. There were some times when I was the only one at youth group, and I'd get one-on-one time with the pastor if I did not leave or go to a different youth group that week. Then there was the day when I was 17, and my favorite aunt on my dad's side, who made some killer peanut brittle, passed away. I remember what I was doing that day. I was getting ready to watch an Iowa Hawkeyes football game when my mom and dad got a call saying that my aunt was in the ICU. It was halftime when my sister came and got me, and we rushed down to the hospital because my aunt's condition was getting worse. So we got down to the hospital. I went in to see my aunt the first time and couldn't stand to be in there to see her like this. And I decided to go in a second time once I was stronger. And when I was in there the second time, my aunt passed away. I remember it was me, one of my uncles, and their pastor in the room with me. And one of my uncles was singing part of the song, He Touched Me, that says, Jesus, Master, Savior. After my uncle finished saying Master, my aunt passed away. After my aunt passed away, I was questioning God. Why would you take someone that's such a nice person when the world is full of people that are wicked and evil? Why not let one of the wicked and evil people pass away? Some of my fondest memories with my aunt when I was growing up as a kid is we would go out with her pastor, my mom, dad, my aunt, and her husband, and eat at a restaurant. And some of my other fondest memories are when my dad and mom wanted to have a date in the city that my aunt lived in. They would drop me off at her house, and I'd play video games upstairs in a room that she had. So from the time when my aunt died, after I got over her loss, till I was 21, my relationship with God was starting to rebuild. At the time I turned 21, I was in a program where if you were a first-year student, you could not drink alcohol while you were on campus. They had one exception to that rule. They had a parents' weekend where your parents came and visited you, and during that weekend, they had a shrimp cocktail party, and you could drink because you were going to go away with your parents during that weekend. When the program was on break, I would ride the Amtrak up to a city where I was waiting to be transferred to the next city closest to my hometown. And While I was on the Amtrak, I had a couple beers because it was like a 2-hour ride to the city I was at where the program was to the city where I was waiting for my transfer. I remember while I was waiting for my transfer, I'd usually always go out for lunch to a mom and pop shop where I would have at least one beer. When I got home that day from traveling back from the program to my hometown, I would be at the bar from the moment I got home to the moment the bar closed. I would spend most of my time at the bar when I was home from that program. During this time, my relationship with my dad was starting to fade, and my relationship with God was starting to get weaker and weaker. I was still going to church every Sunday, so I had some spending money in that program, and I would save up my change from that spending money to come home and drink with. My mom and dad would give me money for something to eat while I was waiting for the train to come pick me up to take me back down to the program. And I would go to the same mom and pop shop and get the same food. And I'd have enough money left over to have a couple snacks on the train with a couple beers. April 24th, 2015, I got a call that changed my life forever. My mom called me and said my dad had a heart attack. A week later, on May 1st, my dad passed away. I wanted to do nothing that night but drink. But my brother would not let me drink that night. On May 6th, my dad was laid to rest. So the night of my dad's funeral, my sister's boyfriend at the time, who's now her husband, took me out drinking. And that is when my problem of drinking for fun became a problem for drinking to forget. So I was making more friends in the bar life than what I was when my dad was alive. Me and this one friend would always get together and have Corona beer with a lime in it. I moved out of that small town into a bigger town. In the small town that I lived in, there was 2 bars within walking distance. And the town I moved into, there's at least 15 bars within walking distance. There were times when I tried to outdo myself from drinking the previous night. And there were times when I took a break from drinking, like a day, and when I returned the next day from not drinking, I would try to outdo myself from the previous time I would drink. Tuesdays and Sundays, I would go to the bars and sing karaoke. And on the weekends, Fridays and Saturday nights, I would go out and party. And that's when I did my heaviest of drinkings was on the weekends and karaoke nights. So I was still going to the Methodist church at the time of me living the party lifestyle. And one Sunday I heard the pastor say something I don't agree with, which was bring up your positive vibes. And I left the church before the service started, or before the sermon started. And I quit going to church for a while. Then I decided, hey, there's a church right across the street. Why don't I go there? Because if I'm hungover from the night before, at least I don't have to walk across town. My church attendance was still kind of iffy because sometimes I'd wake up at 11 o'clock in the morning when the church service was over. The bar I spent most of the time at, the bar owner gave me a job on the weekends, and whenever he needed something done, I would either get paid in beer or get paid in cash and spend the cash that I got from him on beer at the bar. I had a friend who owned a bar and restaurant, and sometimes he'd have me work at the restaurant washing dishes. And after the restaurant closed, the bar would stay open till the close of bars. And I would sometimes spend the money that I got from the washing dishes at the bar. So this one time, I went to a small town where I went to high school, which was a 15-minute train ride away from the city I lived in. So it was about lunchtime, and I was walking to get some lunch at a bar and grill, and happened to run into one of my favorite teachers. I was not planning on getting very drunk that day. So I had my lunch, and I had a beer or two with my lunch, and on my way out of that bar and grill, I heard that one of my favorite teachers say, "Hey, I saw Noah," to a teacher I did not get along with very well in high school. She was taking a whole bunch of her students and showing them around the festival. And at that time, I'm like, she's with her students, so she can't come in here. So what I did was I turned around and went back into the bar and started drinking. So that festival was in the beginning of the month. And that day was so expensive for me with my drinking habits that I could not pay my rent. So it was just not beer I was spending money on. I was spending money on stupid stuff that I probably should not have bought. And that just goes to show, when you are drunk, that your mind is not straight. And that you buy random things or get something that you don't need. So when you're drunk, or that drunk, like I was that day, certain things and certain messages can come to your mind. And one Bible verse that comes to my mind with this is 1 Peter 5:8, which says, "Be sober, be vigilant, because your adversary, the devil, is as a roaring lion, walketh about, seeking whom he may devour." 1 Peter 5:8. There was this one time I visited my mom in the same small town that festival was in. So I visited her for a few hours, and it was time for me to go. And there was still a few hours left before my train came. I just happened to leave my wallet at the train station of the city I was living in. And at the time, my mom and I were sharing a dual bank account. So what I did, I borrowed my mom's card to our dual bank account. And I had a few hours to kill before my train came and took me home, back to the city I was living in. So I was visiting my mom from about 9 or 10 in the morning till about 12 or 1 o'clock in the afternoon. And I had a few hours to kill. So I went out to get lunch, and after lunch, I still had a few hours to kill in between waiting for my train and visiting my mom. So I thought to myself, what can I do? And then the thought came, go out and drink. So I'm like, there's nothing better to do but go out and drink. So I planned on drinking until about 1 or 2 hours before my train came. And so that's what I did. I get to the train station in that small town where I was staying at the time, waiting for my train, and the train's pulling up, and I'm talking to a friend, telling him I have to go. So I shouted bye to them, and the train conductor could hear me, and he asked if I was drinking, and I straight up told him no. So I get back to the train station and hear my name over the speaker, and I thought I was in trouble. So I get home, and I hear my name called on the speaker at the train station, and lo and behold, someone turned my wallet in at the main desk. The Bible says in Proverbs 20 verse 1, "Wine is a mocker, and beer a brawler. Whosoever is led astray by them is not wise." So let's go back and look at 1 Peter 5:8, which says, "Be sober, be vigilant, because your adversary, the devil, is as a roaring lion, walketh about, seeking whom he may devour."